Some information in this review is taken from Wikipedia. Hey guys, A for Awesome here. Welcome to the big return of game reviews to the channel after it was a big part of the channel back in summer of 2020 when I reviewed 6 different Call of Duty games as a way to play through a series of games that I hate but own lots of entries from because my brother loves them. It actually gave me a lot of great memories to look back on of spending time with my brother and us actually getting along for once. I tried to continue to review PS3 games on the channel, attempting to play through a few different games, including The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion and the original Little Big Planet, but I quickly got bored of all of them, especially because Little Big Planet now has its online server shut off, which means I'm likely never going to review any of those games because the online is the best part. I believe I might do the third one because it has, I believe the servers are still up on PS4, but I'm not sure. Anyway, and Oblivion, I played a little bit of, but it's a little hard to get into, to be honest. As bad as that sounds as a fan of Skyrim. Eventually, back when I started to play a ton of Mortal Kombat and Injustice on this channel, I decided to play Mortal Kombat 9 on PS3 and review it over a year after reviewing the Call of Duty games, and it actually kept my attention enough to enjoy it and complete it fully. Since then, game reviews haven't really continued much because I've had a lack of, to be honest, I've had a severe lack of motivation for a while now. You know, I'd say I haven't really been fully motivated since literally April 2021. Um, I'm not going to get into a lot of details. I've just had, a lot of personal stuff as well as a lot of technology limitations and such pop up. And I've been kind of moving towards another chapter of my life. As some of you may know, first off, I was with Chloe, and then we broke up, and there was a whole thing. I had a little bit of a stay in a hospital, and then I got out, and I was just unmotivated for anything for life until around late November, um, because I tried to get back into content creation and such for September and October, but it didn't really work out. I did end up spending a lot of time writing, however, and then in late November I met Rebecca, and we got together in December, and I was highly motivated for a while, but then I kind of started moving towards, I kind of took time to reflect, and I realized how, I just turned 16, but I kind of went, well, wait a minute, you know, um, this year now, 2022, I'm going to be 17. Next year, I'm 18. And so I've kind of realized that I don't have, I'm lacking in a lot of key areas of experience and such. And I don't have much time before I need to start working on that. So I've spent a lot of time working on, um, yes, I obviously have skills to live and such, but I've spent a lot of time working on um, trying to get some job experience and such. I've taken up some more, instead of just doing my own personal writing projects and stuff, I've started to take a more professional approach to it, helping others. I've applied for a few different roles for things, both voice acting and physical play, as well. A lot of volunteer stuff I've started to try and do. And then basically, yeah, me and Becky were together, and eventually I quit YouTube because I was moving so far in that direction. I didn't want anything to distract me. And then I came back because I worked really hard for a few weeks on those kind of skills, and then I kind of got to a position where I felt comfortable that I could use my spare time with YouTube and still work on those skills. And so I returned to YouTube, and then was on and off of it for a while. I uploaded, but it wasn't like a super consistent upload schedule like it was before, where I'd stream every day at least once, or at least once every other day, and I would upload every day. It kind of became like maybe every week or so I'd upload and stream or something like that, here and there. Um, but anyway, so yeah, I haven't really had as much motivation to take the time to play through a game and take notes and then make a huge big script. And to be quite honest, like this script that I'm reading from now, obviously I'm improvising as I'm reading it. But a lot of the script that I'm reading, and like this script here, I created back in like, yeah, this says last edit was December 21st, 2021. Excuse me. So like this was a long time ago. Um, but yeah, I haven't had the motivation to do a lot of that stuff. And some might think that it's not hard to do reviews. It might not be so hard for some people, but for me personally, it's very hard because I have to play through a game, and sometimes I can go an hour and then pause it and write something, or sometimes it's like I have to pause every couple minutes and pay attention to a detail and write it down. And I've been trying really hard to look for the right game, and I think I found it. So I decided to go back and play the first Spider-Man movie tie-in game based on the first Sam Raimi / Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie released in 2002 for the GameCube, as a way to celebrate the returning of spoiler alert for No Way Home, but the return of obviously Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in No Way Home. Um, I was planning to review all three Tobey Maguire movies on my podcast that I am like working on creating. I'd made like a practice with my friend, then I made an actual episode with Becky, and then deleted it. And so now that friend from before is hopefully, when I'm done recording this, we're actually gonna do I took notes during the movie, and he hasn't seen the movie in a long time, so I'm basically gonna sit there and like kind of talk to him about it and talk about trivia and have a big discussion. And it's called the Dumb Talking for Smart People podcast, I believe is what I named it. And it's gonna be different hosts. It's gonna be me, and then it's gonna be someone else in every video. So I plan to do all three Tobey Maguire movies for that. And I plan to review this game, obviously, Spider-Man 2 for the GameCube. And I one thing that I'm currently doing, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm saving up for a TV for my room because I don't have one, and an Xbox 360. And then I'm going to try and buy Spider-Man 3. However, they are all very expensive, and my friend DJ has the game already because I saw it for Xbox and he bought it. So I'm likely going to borrow it from him and complete like fully, and then give it back to him at some point. But I still got to save up for like $120 so I can get a TV and a Xbox. Because it's just a small TV that I need and a cheap 360. I was also planning to review the Amazing Spider-Man movies, the the first Amazing Spider-Man game on the Xbox once I get my Xbox as well, which DJ also owns. I used to own it. It was actually mine, but I gave it to him because my Xbox stopped working sadly. So I threw the Xbox out and gave him basically all my games. So I obviously can't take it back because I let him keep it, but I will borrow it again from him to complete through that. Um, and then I also was going to make actual full-on videos doing a walkthrough of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I actually already own that one on PS4. Um, and then I want to play Spider-Man Friend or Foe, which I don't have though. I'll have to buy it. I've heard it's actually pretty expensive, so I might have to wait a while to save up for that one. And then I also want to purchase the entire series of Spider-Man, the new animated series, which has Neil Patrick Harris voicing Spider-Man. It's the really weird looking like 3D animated one. I figured it's the weirdest choice to review because everyone praises the 90s series, and there's not a everyone praises Spectacular Spider-Man, which why wouldn't they? It's amazing. And there's everyone. I don't want to watch Ultimate Spider-Man. I've already seen the entire 2017 series, and like I, I don't really enjoy it that much, and I feel like I don't have much to say that hasn't already been said before. Um, for any series, but I feel like with the new animated series, it's one that I've never seen the entirety of because I've seen the entirety of every other Spider-Man series, but not the new animated series because I just hated the way it looked. So I feel like if I sit down and watch it all, I can kind of actually give my thoughts on it finally. So I want to do that, but I don't own. I have ways of getting every single one of those, except for Friend or Foe and the new animated series. But I'll try to save up for them. Unfortunately, the only three games that I wanted to play out of those that I could find were this one because I already owned it, and Spider-Man 2 because I already owned it, and Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I already owned it. But like I said, I already have the Amazing Spider-Man 1. It's DJ's, and Spider-Man 3. So I have all of them that I needed, except, like I said, Friend or Foe or um, the new animated series. So I plan to complete the three games that I have at my house, and then either I'm going to at some point. I was originally going to go to his house, and we were going to try to complete through those two other ones together. But I figured it's a lot of work to do that when he straight up told me, if I get an Xbox, I can borrow it because it was already, at least the Amazing Spider-Man 1 was already my game. Um, but I actually lately, at least on Amazon, found Friend or Foe. I think it was Amazon. I'm not sure. Found Friend or Foe for the Wii, and it's actually a lot cheaper. But I could probably try to find an Xbox one. Would probably be easier. But normally I don't. It was a used copy though. Which normally I don't like taking my chances with used items, but I don't think I'm going to be able to find a new condition copy of the game. Um, anyway, fun fact: this is not my first time playing through and reviewing the 2002 Spider-Man GameCube game. I've owned it since like 2018. This is actually the third time. The first time that I ever played through this game and reviewed it was on my very first YouTube channel, which was the one that I started it in 2016 and deleted it in early 2018. Um, the second time that I completed and reviewed this game was in 2019, um, which I had because I created another channel second to this channel that was just for reviews. And I remember almost every single review from that channel was put onto this channel, but I do plan to redo all of them, like every single one that I did. And I also, but there were a few that weren't on there. Like there were some, like I think I reviewed Wii Sports slash Wii Sports Resort, like both of them, and I never saved that one. I did a few other ones that were really short, like 2 minute long reviews. Uh, but most of the reviews were here, and this first Spider-Man game wasn't one that I saved because I wanted to redo it. Um, so completing this game should be no problem for me. But I guess we'll have to find out. So I guess it's time to actually start the review after 13 minutes worth of. Most game reviewers would already have finished their entire review by now, but I like to talk a lot. Let's begin with the gameplay. So just like the 2000 Spider-Man game, which I have on PS1, and its 2001 sequel, Spider-Man 2: Enter Electro, Spider-Man 2002 is a level-based beat-em-up video game where the player takes on the role of the superhero Spider-Man, obviously. While most levels are indoors, there are several levels set outside among the skyscrapers of New York which require the player to web sling from building to building, as falling below a certain height will result in an instant game over. Levels use a scoring system that covers more aspects, such as time, clearing the level in a set time, perfect, not taking any damage or ever being detected in stealth, and style, using as many combos as possible. Some levels have other specific aspects such as secrets, uncovering a secret area, combat, defeating all enemies, and stealth, remaining undetected by enemies. Players can gain, depending on difficulty, points on completing these tasks. Excuse me. On easy mode, each bonus is 500 points, normal is 700, and hero is 1,000 each. The game does not have an open world like almost every other 3D Spider-Man game, minus the ones before this, and Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time, I suppose. Open world Spider Man games will not begin until the sequel to this, which I will be looking at in my next game review, luckily. The game looks incredibly detailed for a GameCube game from 2002. In my opinion, it actually has better graphics and more detailed than its sequel, which was released in 2004. The basic abilities are swinging, zipping, punching, and kicking, dodging, web, camera lock, and the web mode in enhanced mode. Depending on how the player combines different buttons, it will have different results. Wall crawling is automatic, and players are also able to lift up heavy and light objects such as cars and chairs. There are 21 different combos, which are unlocked by collecting gold spiders, with 4 web controls, each having a type of upgrade to each. The game also features stealth segments where Spider-Man can hide in the shadows and remain undetected from the enemy. While the game is primarily in third person, a cheat code allows players to switch to first person view, though I wouldn't recommend it because it's very hard to do. The web swinging feels a little clunky compared to later games, and even compared to the sequel to this game. It feels a lot slower and heavier, and so does all of the controls. Now let's continue on to the plot and story of the game. This is the area where I put most of the kind of notes and such. Here's the plot. Outcast teen genius Peter Parker develops spider-like superhuman abilities after being bitten by a genetically altered spider created by Oscorp. He learns how to use his newfound powers in the form of an optional tutorial narrated by Bruce Campbell. Peter then decides to use his powers for personal gain and enters in a wrestling competition. However, he is cheated out of his prize money by the fight promoter. The promoter is then robbed by a thief, whom Peter lets go out of spite. Shortly afterwards, Peter is devastated when his Uncle Ben is killed by a thug whom the police identify as the leader of the Skulls Gang. Peter tracks down and defeats the murderer at a warehouse where he is hiding from the police, only to discover that he is the same thief he let go earlier, who then dies after accidentally slipping out of a window. Remembering Ben's words that with great power comes great responsibility, Peter vows to use his powers to fight evil and becomes the masked superhero Spider-Man. He also gets a job at the Daily Bugle as a photographer after selling photos of himself as Spider-Man. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, excuse me. We spend the tutorial playing as Peter in his civilian clothes, with the first 2 full levels of the game playing as Peter in his wrestler costume. The rest of the game is spent in Spider-Man's trademark costume, albeit the same Sam Raimi version, of course. However, there's one question with this. What if we get bored of having the same costume? There were tons of alternate suits with different powers in the previous 2 games from 2000 and 2001. You know, the ones with similar titles to this and the sequel to this, but based on the 90s animated series and the comics, with Rino Romano, also known as Batman from the 2004 animated series that I love and have previously reviewed on this channel, and I'm planning to review again on my podcast, playing Spider-Man with an impression of Christopher Daniel Barnes' voice from Spider-Man and being released on the PS1 and N64, which, don't worry, I have a copy of as well and will be reviewing it at some point too. So what about this game? Lucky for us, this game has more costumes to unlock as well. Unfortunately though, there isn't as large of a selection of suits as the previous games. Anyway, the costumes in the game are not unlocked through gameplay side missions or cheat codes, although there are cheat codes to allow yourself to play as quite a few characters besides Spider-Man, though they are just reskins. Here's a list of the codes. HERMANSCHULTZ unlocks the ability to play as the Shocker. SERUM unlocks the ability to play as an Oscorp scientist. KNUCKLES or STICKYRICE or THUGSRS are all unlock different skull thugs to play as. I'm spelling them out instead of saying them because I feel like I'm probably gonna have to put the cheat codes in the description, but yeah. CAPTAINSTACEY unlocks the ability to play as a helicopter pilot. FREAKLUT allows you to play as Matrix Spider-Man, and REALHERO allows you to play as a police officer. Now, I have the player's choice version of this game, which doesn't have many changes compared to the original release, although there is one big change. In the original game, there was an extra skin code. If you typed GIRLNEXTDOOR into the cheat code area, you could unlock Mary Jane. There was a lot of controversy with this skin, though. According to what I read, here's what happened. This game was banned in China when it was originally released. The Chinese government, being the ridiculously strict and definitely abusive parents they are, banned the game for having lesbian incest masturbation, because in the ending of the game, Peter Parker kisses Mary Jane, but if you are playing as Mary Jane, then she kisses herself. Obviously, here in 2022, nobody would care about that. In fact, even in 2002, I don't think that anyone would have really considered that to be like an X-rated gaming moment. I think that it would have just kind of been a funny little joke. And if you think about it, isn't all female masturbation technically lesbian incest masturbation? But either way, China banned it because the Chinese government is awful. Oh shit, it's the Chinese government. They've come to ban all my videos.
Watch out! I think they're planning to ban the female gender next. But wait, if China has no females, all the men will become gay. And if all the men become gay, then they'll ban males. And then China will just be a country full of animals and children, and animals eating the children. Oh no! Fire! Hello, my name is A for Awesome, and I have been forced at gunpoint. I mean, chosen to say that the Chinese government is the best government and homosexuals are sinners or something like that. I don't know.
It's high noon.
Well, it took me a long time to get back here, but I finally did it. I died, went to hell, was forced to prove myself worthy of being in heaven, got sent to heaven, beat Jesus Christ in a wrestling match, then had to battle God in a fight that would have needed a lot of CGI to create in a movie, but would have looked absolutely awesome, and then killed God and absorbed his power. Luckily, I have returned to Earth. Unfortunately, now everybody worships me because I killed God and proved that he existed, and then killed him and absorbed his power. But anyway, let's move on with the review, shall we? I'll just cut this end out. Just end it.
If you want a different costume of Spider-Man, you'll have to complete the game on each difficulty. If you complete the game on easy, you'll unlock the ability to play as Peter Parker and Peter in his wrestling costume for the entire story. If you can complete the game on medium, you unlock the original suit design for the movie, which just so happens to be the Alex Ross design, which just so happens to look a lot like the Superior Spider-Man costumes, which, for those who don't know, is the costume from the comics that Spider-Man uses when Otto Octavius / Doc Ock takes over Peter's body and becomes the new Spider-Man. And if you manage to complete this already brutally hard game on the hardest difficulty, you get to play as an entirely new character, that character being Green Goblin, but not Norman Osborn. Instead, you play as Harry Osborn. He has become a hero goblin like in the third movie, kinda. Unlike the third movie, however, he looks like Green Goblin instead of a totally radical snowboarder. The only weird part about it is that Norman is alive and evil, and for some reason Harry wants to kill his own dad. And also the levels are exactly the same, meaning that flying the glider is very hard. Meanwhile, Oscorp CEO Norman Osborn and his scientists are investigating the appearance of this new hero. Anxious to develop his human performance enhancer, Super Soldier, serum, the main goals of which are already exhibited by Spider-Man, Osborn sends robots to capture him, but Spider-Man destroys them. Later, Spider-Man witnesses the Shocker and the Vulture robbing a jewelry store and escaping separately. Going after Shocker first, Spider-Man pursues him through the sewers and into a subway station where he defeats him. The Shocker boss fight was a pain in my ass. He shoots lasers at you that take a quarter of your health every time, meaning you can only be hit 4 times. You are in a dark subway hall, and you're meant to quickly zip between each hallways, like all the hallways, during fast shots to avoid them.
There are only 2 issues with this, though. The first is that you can't see where the openings are. It's so dark in the subway that you can't see where the actual openings are. The second problem is that Peter moves like a 182-year-old woman. Like, literally, she turns and it's like he turns and it's like he's a grandmother who's looking for her grandson who actually died 80 years ago because she and she has Alzheimer's and has been hearing his voice in her head this whole time. That is what moving Peter Parker in this boss fight reminds me of.
Not wanting to let the Vulture get away with his share of the loot, Shocker tells Spider-Man that he's hiding in an old clock tower. Spider-Man climbs the tower, but the Vulture attempts to escape. After a chase through the city, Spider-Man finally defeats Vulture on top of the Chrysler building and leaves him along with the stolen loot for the police to find. Vulture's boss is much easier than Shocker. I actually completed it first try like a pro legend epic Chad gamer. Later, Oscorp creates several spider-shaped robots to capture Spider-Man, but they end up pursuing Scorpion instead, whom they mistaken for Spider-Man due to him also having arachnid DNA. After returning to the subway station to take photos of his battle site with Shocker, Spider-Man runs into Scorpion and helps him fight off the Spider-Bots. However, an increasingly paranoid Scorpion then attacks Spider-Man, believing he is trying to take him back to the scientist who experimented on him. Scorpion is defeated but manages to escape. Scorpion is completely different than I've ever seen him. Instead of being a Spider-Man hating villain, he's another experiment gone wrong and isn't really actually a bad guy. Meanwhile, Osborn is fired from Oscorp due to failing to complete the Super Soldier Serum in time and decides to test it on himself, leading to the creation of a psychopathic alternate personality, the Green Goblin. Sporting experimental armor, a glider, and an arsenal of advanced weapons, he attacks the yearly Oscorp Unity Day festival to exact revenge on those who fired him. Peter's friend and crush, Mary Jane Watson, is caught in the chaos, but Peter intervenes as Spider-Man and rescues Greater kisses him, just as Spider-Bot photographs from afar. Spider-Man then fights the Goblin, stopping from harming more bystanders. Impressed, the Goblin offers Spider-Man a chance to join him, but the latter refuses. The Goblin then reveals he has planted bombs filled with deadly gas over the city and escapes with Spider-Man and disarms them. After another battle with the Goblin, Spider-Man studies a piece of the villain's gear that he recovered and learns it was manufactured by Oscorp. Infiltrating the Oscorp building to investigate further, he avoids detection by the security as he makes his way to the secret labs where he discovers some chemical weapons being made in a giant
The
robot and
level where
neutralizes
you
both.
have to break into Oscorp is so hard that I had to take a break from the game for several days so that I didn't break my face using only a hammer that I made out of entire jars of Cheese Whiz that I glued together using melted cheese that I melted using my microwave, which now does not work. It seems that I'm unable to watch season 69 of RuPaul's Drag Race on my new bedroom TV. But, you know, at least my pizza pockets can be warmed up. Just gotta, you know, give it a bit. And, you know, how are you guys doing? I've got a working microwave in my bedroom. I mean, this is totally a TV. Totally. Yeah. Wait a minute. These pizza pockets are cold!
Spider-Man then arrives in Osborn's office and learns that the Goblin knows about Mary Jane after seeing the photograph of her kissing him. Deducing that the Goblin kidnapped Mary Jane to lure him out, Spider-Man escapes from Oscorp and chases the villain to the Queensboro Bridge, where he rescues Mary Jane and defeats the villain. The Goblin unmasks himself as Osborn and in a final attempt to kill Spider-Man, accidentally gets impaled by his glider. Before he dies, Osborn asks Spider-Man not to reveal his identity as the Goblin to his son Harry. Spider-Man attempts to reveal his identity to Mary Jane, but stops when she kisses him. Spider-Man then ends the game with a fourth wall break, telling the player to go outside and play.
Nobody wants to play with me.